How's it going? Welcome. Gonna get started here in just a second. I'm actually very excited to be here with you tonight. I'd love to know in the comments, where are you tuning in from? So I am coming to you from Boulder, Colorado, where it's been pretty darn chilly lately. I mean, I think we've had 3 or 4 days of negative 10 degrees. Not great, not fabulous emotional experience for anyone over here. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you're safe. I hope you're warm. I hope you're recovering from the holidays, including financial recovery. And I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic. It's about financial freedom. Who doesn't want to be financially free? A big part of what financial freedom is all about, and I'll be looking down here every now and then because I got some notes here, is how much money do you need to have in a nest egg or coming to you in passive income streams, and I'll include Social Security as a passive income stream, pension, whatever you get from work, whatever, and we typically will use like a 4% rule in financial planning. We could debate it, but that's roughly what it is, where you could take about 4% of that nest egg each year and, at least theoretically, statistically speaking, not run out of money. So what would that number be for you? Think about that for a minute. How much money do you need to have squirreled away so that you can cover your expenses, so that you can be financially free? It's a beautiful concept too. What would you do with your time if you were financially free? In our studies on financial psychology, one of the things that we've discovered is that the clearer a picture that somebody can get of their ideal financial freedom experience, so we might call it retirement. What does that retirement look like for you? If you can spend some time creating a very crystal clear picture of what exactly you would be doing. Who would you be with? How would it feel when you picture yourself waking up each day? What are you doing? Are you picturing a beach environment? Are you picturing a mountain environment? The clearer the picture, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. It's a very strange psychological hack, and I'll explain it to you really briefly here. So we are not wired to really deal in the abstract, and our time on Earth, most of it, has been one of sheer terror, where we're fighting for survival. And it's only a miracle that many of us live a life where we aren't waking up in the morning worried about where we're going to get our next meal. Now, I know some people listening to this may be living in that experience right now, but for most of humanity currently, we're not really having to worry about, as soon as we step out of our home or out of our tent, out of our yurt, that we are going to get attacked by a enemy tribe or by a wild animal. For most of our time on Earth, though, that is how we have spent our time. That is how human beings have been on Earth. And so our brains are wired to survive in that environment. And that environment requires a focus on the here and now. For example, imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer, and you're walking out of your cave. And imagine that you're daydreaming. You're thinking about the future and how you're going to make some upgrades to that cave, or perhaps move into a larger cave for many of your cave person children that you have. And as you're pontificating and thinking about it, you're going to take a little stroll, thinking about the future and planning for the future and what might that look like. Boom! You just got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger because you weren't paying attention to the here and now. We are wired to be focused on the here and now. The average American, for example, does a terrible job of saving for the future. This isn't something we think about. We're not oriented towards the future. We're oriented towards right now. This is why we might have the vision of wanting to be thinner, for example, or to lose weight. But it becomes a battle with our body and a battle with our psychology, because we're wired to consume right now. Our ancestors who survived to pass their genes on to us really focused on eating as much sugar and as much salt and as much fat as they could, because that's how you survived, right? It's modern man, modern human experience that leads to us having to do things like, lift weights. Like, this is an absurd concept for us in a prehistoric period of time. Why would you pick up a rock for no reason, to build muscles? Well, now you're gonna have to eat more meat for that. We're just not wired to do that. This is a modern thing. And since we don't move around nearly as much, we have a tendency to take on weight and be less healthy. So we are wired to focus on the here and now. We're wired to consume. So financial freedom requires us to think about the future, to have a future orientation. And that's what studies have found. People who are able to save the most, retire with the most amount of money, have a future orientation. They have a very clear goal of the future. Why would you work so hard right now and sacrifice? Why would you do that? It's absurd unless you have a really exciting vision for the future. So if you take nothing else from this talk, which I'm going to be talking about 3 myths about millionaires that keep people poor and 7 millionaire mindsets that I want you to adopt, at least spend some time visualizing and creating a really exciting vision about what financial freedom is for you. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does financial freedom mean to you? Does it mean that you no longer have to work at the job you're at currently? Does it mean that you can work less hours? Are you happy to continue working where you're working? Does it mean that you're cashing out and you're moving, you're getting out of your hometown, you're moving some other place? What does financial freedom mean to you? And then secondly, I want you to think about how much money you need to make that happen. So if you don't have a clear vision of what financial freedom means to you, and if you don't have a clear understanding of how much money you need to make it happen, you will never be financially free. Or if you are, you've stumbled upon it accidentally, which is no way to go through life, especially when it comes to our finances. We want to have a very clear plan. Okay, so what I'd like you to now think about is that number. How much money do you need to be financially free? And think about all the sources of income you might have when you stop working, or whatever that financial freedom number means for you. And again, take Social Security into account, take a pension if you have one. For many of us though, financial freedom is something we need to acquire for ourselves through our 401k or other types of investments or savings, whatever it is we're doing, plus Social Security here in the US. And we hope that that'll still be coming. But how much do you need? And the rule of thumb that we use in financial planning is something called the 4% rule. So the 4% rule says that whatever your nest egg is, and let's just use $1 million just as an example, which by the way is a tremendous amount of money. And it takes a long time to save and invest to get $1 million. You could take, theoretically, $40,000 a year from that $1 million. So that $1 million is essentially your source of income. You can draw approximately 4%, which is about $40,000 a year, and you can live off that, right? So the 4% rule, use that in your calculation on how much money you need to save up and invest so that you can be financially free. It's about 4%. So again, if that's $1 million, it'd be about $40,000 a year. And for many of us too, when we hit that financial freedom experience that we're wanting to have, we might want to have things like our cars paid off and our home paid off to reduce our expenses. We might also work a part-time job to sort of bridge the gap there between how much money we've saved and how much money we need to live on. So have a clear vision of what your ideal retirement scenario is, or financial freedom. And then you need to come up with a number. What is that number? How much money do you need to squirrel away, to save and invest so that you can execute on that number? And again, if you were able to acquire $1 million, which by the way isn't that difficult, and I'll just give you a quick example. If you invested $5 a day and you got average market return, so people always say, well, what should I invest in? Average market return. So this would be like the S&P 500. If you invested $5 a day, got average market returns, you'd have over $1 million in 42 years. Now, I know what you're thinking. 42 years, oh my gosh, that's forever. I'll be an old man, an old woman. I'm not going to live that long. It's just an example. It's just an example of what $5 a day will do for you. So if you're older, maybe you need to bump it up, $6 a day, $10 a day. The younger you start saving and investing, the richer you'll be and the faster you'll be rich. This is one of the reasons why I produce a lot of content on social media. One of my passions, a driving passion for me, is try to help people achieve financial freedom. And if the earlier I can catch people with this mindset, the easier it is for them to achieve that goal. So a clear vision. What is that exciting vision of financial freedom? You got to have that. And then you got to have that number. What is that number that will allow you to achieve that? Now, I do want to test, before we get into the myths and the mindsets, your millionaire IQ. Okay, so this is how I love to test this. What would you do with $1 million? So let's say all of a sudden, $1 million is in your bank account when you wake up tomorrow morning. What are you going to do with $1 million? And as you're thinking about this, I just want to tell you that somebody with a rich mindset is going to do one thing with that money. And then there's a whole host of things that people with a poor mindset will do with that $1 million. And chances are you're probably going to say one of the things that people with the poor mindset would probably lean towards. And this is not to disparage you. This is a fundamental shortcoming of our educational system, because we are not training people in how to think with a rich mindset. So again, imagine the scenario, $1 million is in your bank account tomorrow. What are you going to do with it? Well, I'm telling you right now, somebody with a rich mindset will do one thing, and people with a poor mindset will do many things. And what would the people with a poor mindset do? Well, they will spend the money, frankly. That's usually what you do. And it makes sense. If you're poor, you're feeling desperate. Life isn't the way you want to live it. So number one, people with a poor mindset probably will quit their job. Go tell your boss you've had enough. Maybe even in a rude fashion, depending how terrible your job is. And then maybe you want to buy that house you always wanted. So you're going to take $200,000 or $300,000, or if you live here in Colorado, it's probably the entire $1 million. And you're going to go buy a house. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're going to spend $300,000 on a house. Maybe $400,000. Okay, so now you're down to $600,000. Well, of course you're going to get a new car, and probably a really nice one, right? I don't know, $80,000 car. What are we driving when all of a sudden you're a millionaire and all your friends are looking at you like, oh my gosh, you got $1 million. It's amazing. Then of course you're going to take a vacation or two. Why not? You've always wanted to go to Europe. You've wanted to take your family to Disneyland, to Disney World. Your friends and family, you're gonna go out to eat. You're gonna take your friends out to eat. You should go to Hawaii. You've always wanted to go to Hawaii. You're probably gonna buy some toys too. If you live in the north, perhaps it's a snowmobile. Perhaps it's I don't know, a jet ski if you're somewhere warmer. Well, I'll tell you what. The poor mindset is gonna run through that money. Of course, you'll pay off all your debts, maybe your student loans. Quite often with that poor mindset, a year or two later, all the money's gone. Now you have to go beg for your job back, and you are no further ahead. Quite often, you've bought a house you can't really afford. You've burned through all the money. Now there are repairs, and now all of a sudden you can't pay your mortgage. This is what a poor mindset does. All the money's gone. Poof, gone. What a rich mindset does, takes that $1 million, they invest it. They stick it all in investments. Getting average market returns, they now have an income of $40,000 a year for the rest of their lives. For the rest of their lives. And when they die 20, 30, 50 years from now, that $1 million has grown. It has grown over time. Perhaps now it's $2 million, and they're able to leave that to their children. So they're taking out that 4% a year, $40,000 a year over time. Quite often that'll grow. Perhaps that number gets bigger and bigger as they go. And with that $40,000, what would they do? Maybe they quit their job if they can live on $40,000. But for many people, they might use that money to improve their education so they can make more money. They might take that $40,000 a year and try to start a business each year. I want to say each year, but because most businesses fail. But you want to take that $40,000 and maybe you want to invest some in a business or in your education, or you're going to use that money for vacation. You're going to supplement your income, not because you're making money. That's what a millionaire would do. That's what a person with a rich mindset would do if they got $1 million. So Think about it. Did you pass the millionaire test? When you got the $1 million in your brain, did you spend it all? Or did you invest it? Did you treat this like a bank, right? So this is a money-making machine for you that's going to crank out that 4% return that you're going to be taking and accentuating your life and taking those vacations and trips. That is the rich mindset. And if you do not have the rich mindset, you're not going to be rich. This is the bottom line. The spending mindset is a poor mindset when I think about all the stuff I'm going to buy. All right, so let's get now into some millionaire myths. So millionaire myth number one, and I'm going to ask you this in the form of a question because I want you to think about it. Are most millionaires entrepreneurs or employees? So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Are most millionaires entrepreneurs? They're business owners. That's what an entrepreneur is. Somebody who struck out, created a business. Perhaps it's services, perhaps it's products. You know, we can think of Elon Musk as a billionaire entrepreneur. Bill Gates, another billionaire entrepreneur. Is that how most people are getting rich? What do you think? Yep, I'm getting some comments here. Entrepreneurs. You know what? That's what I thought too. I thought that most millionaires were entrepreneurs. Because I'm on social media, I see it all the time. I see people telling me to quit my job, quit your job, go start a business. Well, the fact is, 7 out of 10 millionaires in the United States are employees or professionals. 7 out of 10. So that means only 3 out of 10 are entrepreneurs. Now, of course, some of those 3 are the ones that are famous, right? The ones that we see, the ones that we know, and that's why we have this skewed vision. They're the ones we see on social media or people talking about in the news. What we don't see in the news are the millions of millionaires who are teachers, who are dentists. So that's the professional side, right? And what they have done is they have a millionaire mindset, and they take a percentage of their income and they save and invest it every time they get a paycheck. By the way, this is the key to becoming financially free. It's the key to becoming a millionaire and multimillionaire right now in the United States. It's pretty simple. Saving and investing a percentage of every dollar you make. So I'm going to ask you right now, what percentage of your income are you saving and investing? What percentage of your income are you saving and investing? And if there's one mindset I could instill in every young person, and again, if you're older, I'm not trying to make this difficult or disparage you in any way. I'm older. It's just so much easier when you're younger. It's so much easier because for many of us, we're broke. We feel broke. You get your first job, all of a sudden you feel rich. If I could just instill in everyone who gets their first job coming out of college, coming out of high school, to save and invest 30% of every dollar they make. Save it and invest it. Put it in your financial freedom fund. You will become a multimillionaire, guaranteed. And when I say guarantee, that's assuming that the stock market just keeps doing what it's been doing for hundreds of years. It's sort of a slam dunk. It's the easy way to become a multimillionaire. So most millionaires in the United States are employees or professionals. They're not entrepreneurs. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a business owner. Just understand this. Most businesses fail. Most businesses fail. So if we go back to that millionaire test, what would you do if you got $1 million? If your answer was, I'd go start a business, odds are you're going to lose your money because most businesses do fail. And I've certainly had a lot of failed businesses and probably will have more. Okay, so millionaire myth number one, they're not entrepreneurs. Most of them are employees and professionals. And I find this to be very exciting because most of us are employees or professionals. And so we can access financial freedom. We can become millionaires and multimillionaires by doing this very simple step of saving and investing a percentage of every dollar we make. All right, number two, millionaire myth number two. Most millionaires are born rich. Now, the truth is that most millionaires are self-made. They didn't inherit their money. Now, that's one of the beautiful things about living in the United States is most millionaires, and we're talking, studies show that it's anywhere between 80 and 90%. And I've seen some studies around 87% of millionaires are self-made. They're self-made. They didn't inherit their money. This is fabulous news for people like me who grew up lower income. When I learned this, I got so excited. I got so excited because when I grew up lower income, I didn't think that I was going to be able to become wealthy. I thought that I had these types of beliefs. And as I'm saying this, let me know if you resonate with these. I thought, well, it takes money to make money. You got to have money or you're never going to really be able to make money. I thought that most rich people, were private school, products of the private school. We have since found, I don't know if I'm going to talk about this later. We have since found, I'm not. So I'll just share this with you. Most millionaires went to public school. This was great news for a guy who went to public school. I was like, well, if they did it, I can do it. Most of them didn't inherit their money. Well, maybe I can become wealthy. I didn't inherit any money. Most of them are employees. Okay, well, you mean I don't have to go create a multi-million-dollar business in order to become wealthy? No. As a matter of fact, that's not most millionaires. Most millionaires are employees or professionals. This is such good news. It's such good news. It's so exciting because it really does mean that financial freedom is accessible for all of us. It's accessible for you. It absolutely is. And the earlier you have the mindset, the earlier you start saving and investing, the more likely you're going to get there quicker and the more money you'll have when you do get there. So, millionaire myth number 1, and let's just bust it. So the truth is this: most millionaires are employees and professionals, not entrepreneurs. Millionaire myth number 2, they weren't born rich. They didn't inherit their money. Most millionaires are self-made. It's a beautiful, beautiful fact. And I don't really understand. I mean, I do understand. It makes some people really angry to hear that. I mean, for me personally, I got really excited about it. And one of the objections I get is that there's no such thing as self-made. Well, there is. The definition of self-made in this context means that the amount of money you have, your net worth, you didn't inherit it. So you didn't inherit a dime of it. You got it on your own through your own efforts, your job, etc. Okay, now millionaire myth number 3 that I want to address. This is that most millionaires are big spenders. They're big spenders. And back to my millionaire test that I gave you, for many of us, that is the focus, right? So if I get $1 million, I'm going to spend it. What am I going to buy, right? Well, I'm going to go invest it in a business. I'm going to buy a brand new car. I'm going to go buy vacation for my family. It's something we've always wanted to do. I'm going to go buy a house. I'm going to buy. And I recently did a post on Facebook where I asked people, what is your definition of rich? And one of the comments I got frequently was, I don't have to really think about money anymore. I don't really have to think about money. Now, the irony is that most multimillionaires think about money all the time because they became multimillionaires because they're frugal, okay? So they're not big spenders. Most wealthy individuals in the United States are not big spenders. They describe themselves as frugal. Oh my goodness, does this surprise you? If you're looking around on social media, you see the exact opposite. You see people flashing the latest thing that they bought, right? A lot of people leaning up against Lamborghinis, at least on my feed, right? Or standing in front of this big house. And if you dig a little bit deeper, a lot of those people are actually trying to sell you something, right? So they're trying to sell you this image of abundance and wealth, etc. Well, most millionaires, most multimillionaires are frugal. They don't spend that much money. That's how they become wealthy. They have a saving and investing mindset. They have a future orientation. Going back to that, they're not focused on consuming stuff right now. This is a cave person mindset, and cave people were not rich. Okay, cave people were fighting for survival. They were trying to get their next meal. Great mindset to have a caveman mindset if you're living in a cave person world. But if you want to become wealthy, you have to have that future orientation. You got to be thinking about the future. You got to be willing to make those sacrifices today for the future. And that is the mindset of most wealthy people. And I'll give you an example. We did a study where we looked at people who had 11 million in net worth. And we compared them to a group of people who had $500,000 in net worth. So Now, from my perspective, both these groups of individuals are doing pretty good, but we're comparing 11 million in net worth to $500,000 in net worth. Two different groups. And we asked them, how much money did you spend on your last watch, your last vacation, your last car, and your last house? And I got to tell you, I was blown away by the results. I grew up lower income. Wealthy people were sort of this thing I wanted to study, right? How do people become wealthy? How do wealthy people behave? This was something I was very curious about since I didn't grow up wealthy. And what we found is that those people with $11 million in net worth only spent twice as much as the people with $500,000 in net worth on those items. I couldn't believe it. So for example, the ultra wealthy in our study had 11 million in net worth. Do you know how much money they spent on their last watch? Think about that. And even write it in in the comments. What's your best guess? Well, I'll tell you what my best guess was. 11 million in net worth. Those people are pretty rich, right? Well, those must be the people who are buying Rolexes, right? Omegas. Those really, really nice fancy watches. What are the other ones? They're not coming to mind. I'm not a big watch person. Once I learned that most rich people aren't, they're not the ones doing that. On average, they spent $1,000 on their last watch. That's it. 11 million in net worth. How much did you spend on your last watch? $1,000. The people with $500,000 in net worth spent it was $800. How much did they spend on their last car? Now, this one blew me away. The people in that, and this was pre-COVID, so prices probably inflated a bit. But for their last car, they were coming in at about $27,000 they spent on their last car. Meanwhile, this ultra wealthy group, they were spending about $50,000 on their car, not hundreds of thousands. They weren't driving a $200,000 Lambo. They could have. They had $11 million in net worth, but that is not the psychology of somebody who becomes ultra wealthy. It's just not. And I'm talking about self-made here because for many of the people who follow me, and certainly for myself, I'm interested in climbing the ladder, right? How do I help people go from poor to rich? How do I help people go from lower income to middle class, from middle class to upper class, and all the way up to rich? So to understand that these ultra wealthy individuals, they're frugal, they're not big spenders, they're big savers. They're not big spenders. So really, really important to bust that myth, because if you have this belief that that's how rich people are and you want to become rich, I already know why you're in it. You want a bunch of stuff. And a focus on all that material stuff is not going to bring you happiness. It will make you broke. And the big irony here is that people who go from poor to rich, they're not focused on the spending. They're focused on that freedom. They're focused on owning the most precious resource. They don't care about a watch. They don't care about a fancy car. Most people are driving Toyotas, reliable, nice cars, nice car. They're not buying Lamborghinis. That's people who want to show the world that they have a bunch of money. And the people who want to show the world they have a bunch of money don't have a bunch of money for very long. They don't have it for long because they spend it. This makes sense if you think about it. It makes sense if you think about how to go from poor to rich and what is the psychology. What sort of beliefs do I need to adopt so that I can change my financial trajectory? I can change my family's socioeconomic status. Oh, what a wonderful thing that is to think about where your parents came from and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and to think about where you want your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, what sort of experience do you want them to have in life when it comes to money. And so I'm in it for the multi-generational wealth. I don't know, are you? That's what I'm in it for. I'm in it for shifting that and spreading that money down and the mindset down for my children and then someday my grandchildren, if I am so blessed. So I tackled the 3 myths around millionaires. I gave you the millionaire quiz. What would you do with $1 million? And if you're just joining, the answer for the rich mindset is one thing. The poor mindset spends it. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to invest in a business. I'm going to go buy a house. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to buy a car. The rich mindset, I'm going to take that $1 million. I'm going to invest it. And at most, I'm going to take out 4% a year. It's 40 grand. I'm going to upgrade my life with that 40 grand. I'm going to go start a business with that 40 grand. Perhaps I'll even quit my job and live off that 40 grand. But I'm not going to dip into that million, because that million is a money generating machine for me, pumping out that $40,000 a year. If you have a spending mindset, that $1 million is gone in a matter of months. You're begging for your old job back. I'm sorry I swore at you when I quit my job. Please take me back. All my money's gone. That's what most people do with it, by the way. Most people go spend it all. It's all gone. They have to beg for their old job back. All right, so millionaire mindset number one. I told you the myth is they're big spenders. The mindset, they're big savers. They're big savers. I know when I'm talking to a future multimillionaire, when I ask them, what percentage of your income are you saving and investing? And they tell me at least 10%. I know I'm dealing with a multimillionaire when they say 25 or 30%. I was shot for 30%. Now you might look at your life right now and say, there's no way I can be saving and investing 30% of my income. And by the way, I believe you. Like, if you're not already doing it, to go ahead and cut 30% pre-tax, by the way, out of your budget is a miserable experience. Okay, it's miserable. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to sit down and figure out all the stuff you got to cut out of your life. So it's unfortunate if you got to do that, but you might need to do that. I think it's much better to have that mindset early, so that when you get your first job, you get that money, you're like, oh my gosh, look at all this money I'm making. I've been broke forever. And I'm going to sock away that 30%. So I've got a 10-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old. I'm training them in doing this right now. So quite literally, when they get money, I might need to adjust it a little bit because they're investing 100% of it. I think I've really convinced them. And of course, I'm paying for their food and their shelter and all that, so I don't need to worry about it. But I'm trying to train them to have this mindset. The first thing I do when I get paid, the first thing I do is I pay myself. That's the first thing I do. If you have the mindset you're going to pay yourself first every time you get money, what percentage is it? Let me know in the comments. What percentage of your income are you saving and investing? Now, many of you, if this is a new concept to you, if you didn't grow up having this wealth mindset taught to you, how do I become wealthy? It's a mindset. It's a set of behaviors. If you weren't taught this, of course you're not saving and investing anything. But I want you to start. I want you to start. So you may say to me, Dr. Brad, 30% is ridiculous. And if I looked at your life, I might be like, oh my gosh, it kind of is ridiculous. If I was really mean, I would tell you to, do things like sell your car and ride the bus, or, don't eat out again ever. I would do those sorts of things. And that's pretty draconian for many, many people. But you need to do this. Just promise me. If you're watching this right now, just make this promise to me, please, that this year you are going to start saving and investing a percentage of your income, even if it's 1%. 1%. Because if you can save and invest 1%, you're going to have all the mechanisms in place to become a millionaire and a multimillionaire. And then what you can shoot for is in 6 months, try to bump it up to 2%. Maybe next year you get a raise. Now you're up to 5, you're up to 10. Work your way up to that 10, 20, 30% of your income that you're saving and investing if you truly want to be financially free at a younger age, for example. That's how you need to do it. So have that mindset. I'm going to be saving and investing a percentage of my income. I can increase that percentage as I go. So I'm getting in some comments. I'm going to do it this year. Oh, you have just now made this live stream absolutely worth it for me. And again, start with 1%. And people will also ask me, so what do I invest in? What do I invest in? And I want to address this. I want to address this with you. So I'm using in the examples, around a 10% return, which is the average market return of the US stock market for the last 100 plus years. But maybe you want to be more, maybe you're not going to put it all in large cap US stocks. You want to spread it around a little bit. So you're shooting for more like an 8% return. That's fine. I can't tell you what to invest in because I don't know your situation. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know your actual needs. I don't know your timeline. So for example, if you're going to retire 5 years from now, you'd probably invest in something very different than if you're going to retire 40, 50 years from now. But I will say this, that the Security and Exchange Commission of the United States, on their website, they don't recommend this, but they talk about it as something that's really worth researching. They talk about target date funds. Target date funds. Now, again, I'm not suggesting you invest in this. I can't tell you what to invest in because I don't know you, but I'm going to strongly encourage you to research these, because what they do is they take your money and they spread it around in various asset classes, not to get too technical, in different types of investments, and they adjust it as you get older, so you don't even have to worry about buying and selling and rebalancing. A lot of people, when they first start investing, they get into big trouble because they're trying to trade their way to wealth. And interestingly, the more that people trade, the worse they do. That's why I think the Securities and Exchange Commission on their website, they talk about target date funds as something to really consider if you're a do-it-yourself investor. You will outperform just about everyone else who's investing in the stock market, because what they're trying to do is beat the market. That's not your focus. Your focus is on saving and investing as much as you possibly can. That is your focus. Your focus is not trying to take money and get rich quick. So I'll talk about that really quickly around investing. A poor mindset gets $1,000, for example, and they try to turn that into $10,000 over the course of a year. That's a poor mindset. That's a poor mindset. Now, it'd be great if you could do it, but you can't. That's certainly not sustainable. And so what happens is the poor mindset takes that $1,000, starts trading with it, and then they lose their money. And then they say, oh, I'll never invest again. Investing's too risky. Here's the thing. They weren't investing. They weren't investing. That is a poor mindset way of investing. A rich mindset focuses on putting into something like those target date funds. Again, not advice. You got to check it out for yourself. Do your research, if you will. But they got them at places like Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and they just set it in there. You set it, you forget it. You're not making trades, and that's really the mindset that you need to have. I also encourage you, before you take any action when it comes to investing, run it by a certified financial planner. There's a lot of certified financial planners that you could pay them for an hour of their time, and you could actually make some calls. Look for financial planners in your area, CFPs. Could I pay you an hour? How much for an hour of your time? I'd like to sit down with you, show you what I'm doing, and get some feedback from you. Many financial advisors would do that for you. So in the comments here, I read 2 of your books and it helped with my finances. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm here to try to help as many people as I possibly can. Okay, so number 1, big savers, have that percentage. What is that? What percentage is it for you? Work your way up. I always shot for 30%. And luckily I had that mindset before I started making any money at all. So it was really easy for me to do. So try to have that mindset, work your way up to it. So that's millionaire mindset number 1. Be a saver. Pay yourself first. Okay. Millionaire mindset number 2. Be open-minded. Be open-minded. So as I'm sharing with you some of what I've learned over the years in our research on multimillionaires, etc., pay attention to the things that I say that make you say, no, that's not right. That's not it. Because I'd become really curious about that if I was you. And what studies have found, and in psychology they call it openness to experience. Millionaires, again, most are self-made, and they tend to have this mindset where they're pretty open-minded, right? Think about it. You're a self-made millionaire. You went from not having money to now you have a lot of money. I would say $1 million or more is a lot of money. And in order to do that, there's all sorts of mindset shifts you need to have along the way. It's essentially to go from poor to rich. These are 2 entirely different cultures, okay? And to survive when you're poor requires a certain skill set, a certain mindset, and how you're going to do things, which is actually very adaptable for being in a poor environment. And people who have a lot of money and all of a sudden lose all their money, they can struggle with how to survive. Like, how do poor people have a good Christmas? Well, there's a lot of poor people who have fabulous Christmases, okay? And they know how to have Christmas, and they're focused on connection with others and love and generosity in the ways that they can be generous. In a similar fashion, people who are wealthy and have money, they do things very differently. They do things very differently. I'll give you an example. So I call it do-it-yourself-itis, okay? So I grew up lower income, and what I've noticed is in that lower income environment, you live in a do-it-yourself world, right? out of necessity. Your car breaks down, you fix it, right? And if you don't know how to fix it, you ask your uncle to fix it because he's really good at fixing cars. And you have your aunt, she does everyone's taxes, right? I mean, is she an accountant? No, of course not. But she knows how to do taxes better than anyone else in the family, so your aunt does the taxes. And so what happens is if you come from a lower socioeconomic environment, it's very common, for example, and again, I'm talking about open-mindedness, why you need to be open-minded if you want to be financially successful. People who come from lower socioeconomic environments, we have a mistrust for financial professionals. We don't trust financial professionals. We don't know any. We don't trust lawyers. We don't trust CPAs. We don't trust any of those people, right? Because we might have mindset that, rich people take advantage of poor people. The only way to get rich is to be greedy. These are mindsets that many of us have when you come from a lower socioeconomic environment. And so we have a big sense of mistrust around investing in general. And then what happens is we hear of our friend who got rich trading crypto or whatever. And so then we're like, oh, I'm going to put all my money in crypto. And then you lose all your money. And then you're like, oh, see, investing is too risky. Well, guess what? That's not how rich people invest. That's not investing. That's actually a poor mindset approach to try to invest. That's not how rich people invest. So open-mindedness is very, very important. And that's what we have found in our studies, that wealthy people are more open-minded. And so try to be open-minded. Try to be open-minded. Learn what you can. You know, when I'm sitting here talking about target date funds, for example, is as a something that I encourage you to research for do-it-yourself investing. Go do it with an open mind. I talked about the Security and Exchange Commission talking about on their website. Go Google that. What are they saying about target date funds? How might I use this? Be open-minded. It's very important. Be open-minded towards seeking the advice of others. So when I told you, if you have questions about your financial life, look for a certified financial planner, call them up and say, hey, how much for an hour of your time? How much for an hour of your time? I want to pick your brain. Be open-minded to what they have to share with you, because it's almost like going to another country. It's moving into another culture when you want to explore a different socioeconomic class and experience. Like, what do they do with their money? How do they treat it? What do they invest in? These are all things you need to know. You need to learn. And a big part of that is having an open mind. So we're looking at millionaire mindsets. The first one, just for review, big savers. Millionaires are big savers. Most multimillionaires, most millionaires are self-made. How did they get there? Not by focusing on spending. They're focusing on saving and investing. So you need to do that. Pay yourself first mentality. What percentage of your income are you saving and investing every time you get paid? Shoot for 30%. And it's going to probably take you time if you're not doing it. Start with 1%. We will all be so happy, and you are on your road to becoming financially free if you start investing 1% of your income. Start it this year. Get it done. The third mindset that I want to share with you, that's a millionaire mindset, and this comes from research that I've done on multimillionaires, is that millionaires take responsibility for their outcomes. Now, I say 100% responsibility, but that is something to aspire to. So in the research on millionaires, what we have discovered is a certain mindset that they are more likely to have than people who are not as wealthy. And it's called locus of control. It's a psychological concept. I'm going to break it down for you so it's real easy to understand. Multimillionaires, self-made millionaires are more likely to have an internal locus of control. Locus means location. So the question is, where do you put the location of control in your life mentally? Is it external? So you're getting certain results in your life. Is it because of external factors? Is it other people? So for example, let's say that I'm making $30,000 a year. I'd like to be making $90,000 a year. Why am I making $30,000 a year? A poor mindset has an external locus of control. So they're like, well, it's because my boss doesn't pay me enough, and it's because of the corporation. It's because of all these things outside of myself. All right. A rich mindset is like, well, it's because of me. I'm getting paid $30,000 because perhaps I didn't ask for a raise. Perhaps I don't have the level of training that I need to make more money. So I'm not saying be hard on yourself or be mean to yourself. Well, perhaps it is being hard on yourself. Don't be mean about it. But try to take as much responsibility for the outcomes you're getting in life as you possibly can. This is difficult. It can be challenging emotionally, but that's what successful people do. It's just the bottom line. There's been so much research on this. So people who do the best at work, who do the best in school, who have the highest net worth, who make the most income, they are taking responsibility for the outcomes in their life. So something bad happens. So for example, I go start a business and my business failed. Why did it fail? Where is the primary location of responsibility? And if your answer is it's the greedy banks, it's the economy, it's X, Y, and Z outside here, your chances of learning from that experience, of having a successful business in the future, drop dramatically. So try to take responsibility for as much as you can in your life. That's what we find. The internal locus of control. That's what you want. So even in your relationship, you're having relationship stress, relationship trouble. Do you know what the average person does with that? They immediately start looking at the other person. Well, if my wife was nicer, if she really appreciated me, if she knew how hard I was working, then maybe our relationship would be better because she is not treating me, she's not giving me the level of respect that I want and that I need and that I deserve, quite frankly. And as a matter of fact, all my friends agree. They all agree that my relationship problems are because of my wife, primarily. That's how most people go through life. Now, ironically, I will be able to improve my relationship dramatically if I take some responsibility for it, right? If I look at what I'm doing. Because frankly, I'm the one who can change me. And if I can change me and change my behavior, it's going to change the relationship. And so that's what you want to do with every failure that you have. And the more successful you are, the more failures you have along the way. What could I do differently? What signs did I miss? So in the relationship example, what signs did I miss if this person cheated on me or something? Were there things that I let go, that I kind of saw? It's a bit of a red flag, and I didn't really pay attention to it. If I started a business and it failed, did I pick the right business? Did I, if it's a retail place, did I open it in the right spot? Did I do my market research? What can I do differently? If we're always blaming everyone else, even though they deserve some of the blame, see, that's the tricky part. It's extremely seductive because there's all sorts of people doing bad things out there to us. There's all sorts of people to blame, the government. And by the way, worthy of blame too, worthy of blame, the government, big corporations. I'm not suggesting that any of these people are innocent. As a matter of fact, they're all probably very guilty. But even though that's the case, what can I take responsibility for? And the bottom line is the more responsibility you take for the bad things happening in your life, the less bad things will happen in your life and the more likely you will be to be successful. So that's mindset number 3. I'll review them real quickly here. Mindset number 1, be a big saver. This is a millionaire mindset. They're big savers. Number 2, be open-minded. Always be looking to learn, be challenging what you think you know to be true. Number 3, take 100% responsibility. Take as much responsibility as you possibly can, especially for your failures and for your shortcomings. Now, number 4 is really, really important because it illustrates the differences between a poor mindset and a rich mindset. It's get rich slowly. Get rich slowly. That's the millionaire mindset. We want to get rich slowly. Now, of course you want to get rich fast. Of course you do. But the attempt to get rich fast leads to losing money fast. It's a poor mindset. It's a poor mindset. A poor mindset tries to get rich quick. And so we will fall for all manner of schemes. We will fall for all manner of scams. We'll buy get-rich-quick courses. And we'll jump around, and we'll try something for 6 months. It doesn't get us rich quick. We're going to move on to something else. We will approach investing with a get-rich mindset. And when you approach investing with a get-rich mindset, you save up that $100, that $1,000. Oh, this precious money. You've worked so hard for it. You've saved for it. and you throw it all down on red and you spin the wheel. And you do this when it comes to investing too. You're sticking it all in some garbage coin as an example. That's the newest craze, right? And I see it all the time. And the psychology of cryptocurrency traders is fascinating. And I'm not against crypto, by the way. But I see on these listservs where people are taking all of their money and they're putting it into a coin that nobody's ever heard of, and it's ranked 4,000 on the list of coins. And the only reason they're doing it is because they want to get rich quick. And I see people putting their entire net worth, and I see them talking about it on these listservs. And people have been doing this for generations, the get rich quick. I think it's always been there, and it's a poor mindset. That is not how people get rich. That's how people lose all their money. You need to have a get rich slowly mindset. It's the one that will guarantee that you're rich. And I use this example all the time. If you invested $5 a day, just $5 a day, got average market returns, which is around 10%, it's actually over 10% over the last 100 years, you will have $1 million in just 42 years. That's just $5 a day. So I'm telling you right now, anyone listening to this could become a millionaire or could have become a millionaire if they knew that all they had to do was save and invest $5 a day. You probably could have started this when you were a child, right? Mowing lawns, getting your hustle on, your little side hustles when you were a kid. I delivered papers. When I was 10 years old, I'm driving around delivering papers. If only somebody would have told me. If only somebody would have told me. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking 42 years, that takes so much time. You can get there faster, right? You can get there faster by saving and investing $6 a day, $7 a day, $10 a day. And that number can climb as you go. That number can climb as you go. So get rich slowly. That's the mindset. You're going to save and invest a percentage of every dollar you make. You are going to put it in investments that have growth potential, but they're not gambling. And when I hear people say, I would never invest, I had a 401k and I lost all my money. You didn't invest. Nobody loses all their money in a 401k. Nobody's ever lost all of their money in a 401k unless they were putting it all in one risky asset or they were trading with it. If they just left it in like the S&P 500, for example, it's over 10% a year for over 100 years. That's been the average. So rich people have an investing mindset. The poor mindset is the get rich quick mindset. You don't want that mindset. Now, we're moving on to the next one. And this one, millionaire mindset, is to automate. I don't know if this is 5 or 6, I can't really remember. But automate. This is so important because we are cognitively lazy, okay? In psychology, we call it a status quo bias. We have a status quo bias. And so that means that all things being equal, I don't want to change. We don't want to change. It takes effort to change. It's uncomfortable. So let's say that you have a very clear vision of what your retirement is. You've decided what percentage of your income you're going to save and invest. The next step is to automate. And what do I mean by that? You go into your bank account and you make automatic contributions from your checking account to your Roth IRA or whatever it is. This is real easy to do if you are an employee and your company has a 401k, right? A lot of that's automated. You go in there and you say, I don't know, put this amount of money each paycheck into my 401k. This is how so many people become multimillionaires with 401ks without even thinking about it. Because they get hired and they go, sure, fine, put some money over there. And then they wake up later like, oh my gosh, I have $1 million in there. That's kind of how easy it is when you automate. So set your financial goals. Set up separate accounts. This is another powerful hack, okay? Set up separate accounts. So you have a checking account. Let's say that you want to have a financial freedom account. So if you're doing that in your 401k, that's great. If not, let's say you set up a Roth IRA. Every month, automatically, money goes from your checking account, boom, over to that Roth IRA or whatever it is. Let's say that you also want to buy a house someday. Of course you do. You have a house fund. Every month, a portion of that money goes over to your house fund. You've already set it up. You've automated it. Let's say that it is your goal to buy a car. You have a car fund. You automate. Money hits the checking account automatically. Some money goes over each month. You set it, you forget it, and before you know it, you've reached your financial goals. And that's really the key. What you don't want to do is have to sit down and make the decision each day or each week or each month to go allocate the money and move it over there. Because what's going to happen, first of all, you might forget. Secondly, life happens, right? Life happens. So all of a sudden an unexpected expense pops up. No. You don't even want to see this money. That's one of the miracles of like 401ks and setting up accounts like this. Because if you have a bunch of money sitting in your checking account, you're going to spend it. Have you ever had this experience? You're going to spend it. All of a sudden, what happens is it shifts your psychology. So let's say that you got an extra $2,000, an extra $5,000 sitting in your checking account. Your entire approach to life around money is going to shift subtly. You're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, of course we can go out to eat. And let's go out to eat again. And I know that those plane tickets are a little expensive. It's okay. We can do it right now. We can spend a little bit more on that vacation. We can spend a little bit more at the holidays or for birthdays, etc. An amorphous checking account, and by amorphous I mean it's not named, there's no structure, there's no goals associated with it. That money just melts away. It all melts away. So part of paying yourself first is identifying what are your financial goals, picturing them, getting excited about them. At the beginning of this presentation, I talked about that. Like, one of the ways to achieve your financial goals, and we saw people increase, by the way, I'll just tell you about the study real fast. We saw people increase their savings as a percentage of gross income, 73%, after spending about an hour picturing their goals. So in real terms, they were saving about 10% of their income for their goals. After picturing their goals, like visually picturing them, creating a vision board related to those goals, 73% bump in how much they were saving. So they went from about 10% to 17% like that. That's how powerful it is to have a clear vision of the future goal. Again, we're wired to consume now. We want to eat it now. We want to spend it now. How do you overcome this natural wiring of us to destroy ourselves financially each day? And by the way, with food, we do the same thing, right? You have to have a clear and exciting vision of why you're going to ask yourself right now to delay gratification, why you're going to ask yourself why you would suffer right now. Why would I suffer? I have this money. I want to go out to eat. Why would I suffer by staying home and grilling hamburgers? You got to have an exciting, compelling vision about why you would do that, or you'll never do it. So what we did in our study is we had people create vision boards, actual boards, like cardboard, where they painted pictures and they cut out pictures and they really connected with why they wanted to do this and why it mattered. What does financial freedom mean to you? This conversation's about financial freedom. What is it? What does it mean to you? Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? How does it feel? Get specific. Make pictures, draw pictures, cut out pictures, put them on your wall, put them on as the wallpaper of your phone where you can look at them every single day. Why are you working hard? Why are you getting that side hustle? Why are you paying yourself first? When all your friends are spending money constantly, they're blowing all their money. Why are you not doing that? You need to have a really exciting, compelling, passionate reason to overcome your natural desire to spend money now. So I want to ask this, and I want to end this conversation with asking you to get really specific about what is your magic number. What is your financial freedom number? You got to have a number. What is it? Think about it. Spend some time thinking about it. How much money do you need to buy your freedom? How much money do you need so that you don't need to work? Maybe you will work, but you don't need to work. How much money do you need where you can do exactly what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it, and how you want to do it? How much money is that? And remember, that magic number when it comes to a nest egg, think about the 4% rule that we talked about, where you can take 4% each year out of that invested nest egg and not really tap into the nest egg. So that way you always have it. So you always have that chunk of money spinning money out to you. What is your magic number? I used in the example $1 million as a magic number. If you had that, you could take about $40,000 a year, give or take, each year for the rest of your life to either enhance your life, to reduce the amount of hours of work. Perhaps you paid off your house, perhaps you paid off your debt. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you need more. Maybe you're combining that with Social Security or a pension or whatever it is. Think about what that magic number is for you. Get really specific about what you're saving for. You can do this. I'm here to tell you you can do it. It's a very simple formula. The earlier you start, the richer you can be and the faster you can be rich. Whether you're investing if you're not investing and saving anything right now, just make a commitment that 2024 is the year that you're going to start saving and investing, even if it's 1% of your income. There's no shame in that. If you can just start and put the mechanism in motion. So for example, let's say you open a Roth IRA, and let's say, for example, you're investing in a target date fund. Even if it's 1%, get it going now. It's never too late. I believe in you, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care.